Peace, family. Peace, peace, peace. All praise to the Most High. Yeah. Ba'asham HaMashiach Yahushai, in the name of our Savior, Yahushai, who the world calls Christ. Tonight, I'm just doing some studying and, always coming across very interesting information. So I figure instead of just sitting here studying by myself, I might as well come on here and study with you guys so you guys can see sort of, what's going on. That's it. So hopefully, you guys get edified and see some good information. Um, and all praise to the Most High. Happy Sabbath. It's a high holy Sabbath. It's the new moon, plus it's also the Shabbat today. All right. Let me just make sure. Yep. New moon. New moon today. And also the Sabbath right here. Ooh, right here. Evening of this day is this day. So happy High Holy Sabbath. Let's get to it. One of the things I was looking into here is called the haplogroups in Brazil. All right. So let me have a look. Let me see if I could share this. Haplogroups in Brazil. Share screen. Sure, let's try that. Share screen. Let's try this. Okay. Yeah. All right. This is not what I want. So let me go haplogroups in Brazil. And I'm on this website, National Institute of Health and some other stuff. It's a government website. Oh, I was here. I read a bit of this already. It said, in this study, we investigated a set of 41 YSNPs. That's something nuclear peptides, something like that. In 2017, unrelated mails from 5 Brazilian geopolitical regions aiming to disclose the genetic structure of male lineage in the country, lineages in the country. All right. Says a popular comparison based on pair FST genetic distances did not reveal statistically significant differences in haplogroup frequency distribution among populations from the different regions. The genetic differences observed among regions were, however, consistent with the colonization history of the country. So the genetic differences observed among regions were consistent with the colonization history of the country. They said the sample from the northern region presented the highest Native American ancestry, whereas the more pronounced African contribution could be observed in northeastern population, 15.1%. This is according to the genetics, right? When you see African here, it's not African, okay, because Africans were not sold into slavery. Hebrews were sold into slavery, okay? So they should say Hebrews, but we know what they mean when they say African, right? They're trying to sell you the idea that you so-called Negroes are Africans, but you're not Africans. You're Israelites. Contribution could be observed in the northeastern population, 15%. The central, western, and southern samples showed the higher European contribution. So central west Brazil and southern Brazil shows 95.7 to 93.6% European, so-called European, which is Edomite. Now, again, this whole 10 tribes argument it's something that I keep scriptural because nobody can debate scriptures. But people can debate scriptures, but certain scriptures, if you don't have an answer for it, you just have to accept it. But as I always tell brothers, people can make a case for or against natives being the Israelites, using historical documents. Okay. Um, but here, this information is for information purposes only, right? It's neither here nor there for me, but I want to show you guys some interesting things that you can find when you're looking in this direction. So look, it says European contributions in basically Central Western Brazil is 95.7% to 93.6% Edomite. So if you were looking for the so-called Native Americans, here in Brazil, to be Israelites, you'd be hard pressed to find them. You understand? Because most of the people here are Edomites. It says the southern region presented significant European and African contributions. European 86.1% in the south, and African 12.0 contributions in the south as well. The subtyping of the most frequent European lineage in Brazil is what R1B1A. So according to them, this is the so-called white man, okay? Allowed differences in the genetic European background of the 5 Brazilian regions to be investigated for the first time. All right, I had gone down here and was reading along. Let's keep reading. Due to the way it was formed, the Brazilian population exhibits some peculiar characteristics. In the early 16th century, Brazil came under the influence of 3 main groups. In the early 16th century, the Native Americans who already inhabited the region at the time, okay? The Portuguese who arrived in the territory in the mid-1500s, okay, and the Africans that were brought by Portuguese during the slave trade period. Okay, it's the Hebrews that were brought, because the scriptures tell you in Deuteronomy 28 and verse 68 that the 12 tribes were going to go into transatlantic slavery. Exodus 14:13 backs that up and says, you'd be serving a nation. Let's go there. Moses said to the people, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation. No, that's not what I want. I want, they shall. It's Genesis 15:13. Sorry. And he said unto Abraham, know for a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Right? And see. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. Right? So, I mean, this literally happened. Well, this did not happen in Egypt because we stayed 430 years in Egypt, right? This is a end time prophecy about the so-called Negro, right? Who, been in slavery for 400 years. I mean, how many times have you heard that, right? Man, 400 years, man, we still can't get out of slavery. How many times have you heard that from the so-called Negro? Many times, over and over again, right? And it's because we are the people, right? So, and like I said, Deuteronomy 28:68, tells you we're gonna go there on ships, right? Right? And then I'll show you where we went into Egypt for 430 years, right? And don't get it twisted, the law is spiritual. So it's not just, things that are happening at that time. Many times it's telling you about future prophecies as well, right? And things will happen carnally or physically, at that time that will repeat themselves spiritually, you know. And I'll prove that, like, first I'll read this, then I'll go and prove that in, I think it's Job 11 and 6. And Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way whereof I spoke unto thee. The Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way whereof I spoke unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. So when did the Israelites ever go back to Egypt again in ships, right? And were sold as male and female slaves? You're not going to find it in the scriptures, right? Because this happened to the so-called Negro in history. You understand? Where did we go into Egypt again in ships in the Bible? Did not happen. And Exodus 14:13 told you that our nation is not going back there. Now, some people went back there, but as a nation, we would not go back to Egypt. According to the scripture in Exodus 14:13, Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of Yahweh, which is the real name of God, if you don't know, which he will show you to you today. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. Right? So, that's how we know. These people that came on the ships, Israelites. You understand? Yeah, not Negroes, not Africans, sorry, like the story goes, right? Israelites. The Africans that were brought by the Portuguese during the slave trade period. Sorry, let me start the sentence again. In the early 16th century, Brazil came under the influence of three main groups: the Native Americans, who already inhabited the region at the time, the Portuguese, who arrived in the territory in the mid-1500s, and the Africans that were brought by the Portuguese during the slave period. You see that? The Hebrews that were brought by the Portuguese during the slave period. By this time, French and Dutch settlers also arrived in an attempt to colonize the region, but they were soon expelled by the Portuguese. From 1808 on, other people migrated to the country, including Spaniards, Italians, Germans, Syrians, Lebanese, and Japanese, also contributing to the formation of the current population. Remember, again, we're trying to see genetically, who's who in Brazil, right? Brazil is a country of continental extension and is currently divided into five main geopolitical regions: North, Northeast, Central West, Southeast, South, with diverse histories of colonization and settlement, a fact that is reflected in the genetic structure of the current Brazilian population. The existing heterogeneity among Brazilian populations were mainly shaped by differential maternal heritage in a biased mating environment. So just so you know, these people count women in coming up with the haplogroups, right? But according to God, in Numbers 1 and verse 18, you know, it's the seed of your father that counts, right? So I'm searching these scriptures to see who the fathers are in Brazil. This is Numbers 1:18, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the by the house they declared their pedigrees. Okay, that's like your race after their families by the house of their fathers, right? According to the number of names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. So your pedigree, right, is off of your father, right? The record of descent, right? It says of an animal here, but don't be simple. The recorded ancestry, especially upper class ancestry of a person or family, right? Your descent, your lineage, your genealogy, right? That's what you want, right? Your pedigree is your ancestry, your descent, your lineage, your genealogy. Okay. Okay. What was here? Okay, let's close that. Right. So I'm looking for the fathers, the Y chromosome DNA group, okay? Now, just so you know, the foundation of this thing is not a solid foundation, okay? It has some truth in it and some lies. For example, foundationally, they tell you that, the so-called the African, because they group us as Africans. They say the African, the European, the Arab, and um, somebody else, all start at separate lines from 50,000 years ago. Now that's a lie. You understand? And you have to choose who you're going to believe, right? Are you going to believe the Most High? Is that your standard of truth? Or is the so-called white man, the oppressor, who has done nothing but destroy your people and their minds and their lives since you met him? Is that your standard of truth, right? As an individual living on earth, which one is wiser to choose as a standard of truth? Your ancestors or the colonizer, the oppressor, the killer of the whole world, the destroyer, the defiler of the whole world, right? You make the decision, but I stick with my ancestors and my God. That's my standard of truth. So I see everything through that lens, right? And I eat the meat and I throw away the bones, right? Meaning what's garbage, I put it by, what's good, I keep it, right? As it says in the scripture, examine all things. Prove all things mean examine all things, right? And hold fast to that which is good, right? Let me prove that. That's First Thessalonians 5, verse 21. You see that? Test, right? The KJV says prove, but this says test. Now let's look into the word here, the Greek word, which is dokima, what's that? Zu? Dokimazu. To put to the test, well, let's go here to the brown drivers. No brown drivers here. Okay, we'll work. Oh yeah, there's to test, examine, prove, scrutinize. You see that? Test, examine, prove, or scrutinize. So the Most High never said, go sit down in a church and be a dummy, or go sit down in an Israelite congregation and be a fool and just believe everything that they tell you. The Most High didn't say, go sit on YouTube and listen to, Israelite, or a man claiming to be an Israelite with his head wrap and a beard on his face. Yeah, drink everything he tells you. God didn't say to do that, right? He says, examine and see if this man is talking the truth or not, if this woman is talking the truth or not. And we as so-called black people who are actually the biblical Israelites, we have a bad habit of not doing our research. We have a bad habit of just spreading rumors on rumors. I've done it myself, right? But we need to repent of that. The Most High says, examine all things, right? To see if what people are telling you is true, right? And that's the way to be, right? Okay. Let me see here. So the existing heterogeneity among Brazilian populations was mainly shaped by differential maternal heritage in a biased mating environment. Indeed, the early European colonization involved mainly sailors, soldiers, deportees, and wood traders, and the migration of European women was insignificant, which favored mating between what? European men, which is Edomite men, and indigenous or African women. It's not African, it's Hebrew women, all right? And indigenous people are the house of Japheth, okay? That's what I see in the scriptures. That's what I'm going to preach. If you're offended, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, right? Prove to me different with scriptures. When using genetic markers with low mutation rates and different inheritance patterns, a clear heterogeneity can be observed in the genetic contribution of each parental population to the different geopolitical regions of the country as a result of diverse colonization histories. However, the ability to detect heterogeneity considerably decreases when markers with high mutation rates are investigated because this type of polymorphism is much more prone to detecting differentiation within populations rather than between them. That was a mouthful. Don't really know what he's saying there or she's saying there. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see here. I'm looking for the Y. It says in the largest study performed until now on the YSTR haplotype distribution in Brazilian populations, Pala et al. Also failed to detect the substructure of 23 YSTR loci in more than 2,000 Y chromosomes in 17 different admixed populations from the 5 regions of the country. However, by enlarging the size of the sample set of people representing the southwest region of the country, Oliveira et al. Could detect a significant difference between this region and the north for a smaller set of 17 YSTRs, which was further supported by the results of the YSNP analysis. Despite having a lower intrapopular discrimination power than YSTRs, YSNPs are more powerful in revealing the differences among populations characterized by diverse levels of admixture. YSNPs are more powerful in revealing the differences among populations characterized by diverse levels of admixture. So it's saying the YSNPs, single nucleotide polymorphism, I think that's what it stands for. It says that is more powerful in revealing differences in people, even when the population is very mixed. The non-recombining nature of the Y chromosome associated with a high geographical specificity of the haplogroups formed by sets of SNPs distributed along the chromosome make the Y SNPs the most appropriate genetic markers to detect population stratification of male lineages in admixed populations. So it's reiterating what I just said. Until now, a limited number of studies using YSNPs have been performed to characterize admixed populations in Brazil. They focus on small population groups, reporting only estimates of the portions of Native American, European, and African contributions to the current populations. So let's see. Limited number of studies have been performed to characterize admixed populations in Brazil. They haven't done many, and they have focused on small population groups, reporting only estimates of the portions of these three. All right. These studies show greater European contribution in admixed populations from urban centers, along with reduced African and native contributions, which can be more or less important depending on the region. However, in specific population groups such as Afro-descendant communities and Native American isolated tribes, the more prevalent male contributions are from African American origin, respectively. In specific population groups such as Afro-descendant communities and Native isolated tribes, the more prevalent male contributions are from African American origin, respectively. This is interesting. Okay, if my brothers and sisters wanted to see, you know, there are many Afro-descendant people among natives and Hispanics, they would be correct according to this, right? Because it's telling you that there's a lot of Afro-descendant people on the Y chromosome, even among native, isolated native tribes, right? The point I'm trying to make with this 10 tribes thing is that it's not about the natives. The natives are Japheth. It's about the Afro, the so-called African, who is not an African. He is the Israelite, right? And he mixed himself with these people, and so it would be easy to identify them because they're Afro descendant, Negro descendant, Israelite. Nevertheless, no attempts have been made to detect the differences concerning the different European sources of the male lineages currently existing in Brazil by increasing the resolution of the main European haplogroups. Therefore, to better characterize the male lineage background of Brazil in the present work, a large set of highly informative YSNPs was for the first time investigated in representative samples, from all Brazilian geopolitical regions. Moreover, to discriminate contributions from different countries in Europe, a group of YSNPs was selected to increase the resolution inside haplogroup R1b1a M269, the main representative of the European male lineages present in Brazil. So they expanded one group, okay? So they didn't have to go and then deal with specific Edomites, right, that were in Brazil. In this way, we were able to not only determine the different continental sources of the Y chromosomes present in Brazil at mixed populations belonging to the 5 Brazilian regions, but we could also predict the origin of the samples inside R1b1a M269 to investigate the differences in the European background of these regions. I think this is saying totally opposite from what I just said. I think they expanded it to be able to get more details. That's what I understand from this. If I'm wrong, brother, sister, throw it in the comments below. Okay, material and methods. Population sample, DNA extraction, genotyping methods, subsequent statistical analysis. Let's see here. There we go. Y chromosome results and discussion. I think that's what I want. Okay, this is the methodology, but I want the results. Okay. All right. So here's what they got. Here's the results they got. Let's see what they have here. Continental origin of each haplogroup detected in the present study and haplogroup frequency distribution and haplotype diversity in the whole sample from Brazil, as well as the 5 studied samples from each geopolitical region. All right, so let's see what their analysis is, because this table means nothing to me. A total of 22 different haplogroups were detected in the whole sample, revealing 3 major continental origins of the current Brazilian population, namely America, Europe, and Africa. Okay, So some people came from America, some people came from Europe, some people came from Africa. All right. See a lot of Europe here. I see a lot of Africa on here as well. See a little bit of America. More than 50% of the Y chromosomes belong to the R1 branch, namely the sublineage R1b1a. So more than, which represents high frequencies throughout Western Europe. Previous studies have shown that YSTR haplogroups are rather uninformative towards detecting R1b1a and 269 subhaplogroups and geographic origins. Due to a recent expansion of this haplogroup in Europe in a relatively short period, however, expansion in a relatively short period, okay. However, the R1b1a M269 lineage can be further subdivided into several sublineages using YS and Ps. These sublineages have phylogeographic specificity, and the frequencies are not homogeneously distributed on the European continent. Haplogroup R1b1a S116, which has its greatest frequency in Iberia, okay, was by far the most frequent. So Iberia, let's see where Iberia is. I want to say Italy, but it's basically around the Mediterranean Sea. All right. There we go. The Iberian Peninsula. Okay. Also known as Iberia is a peninsula in southwestern Europe, defining the westernmost edge of Eurasia. All right. So this is Iberia. Okay. Essentially what they would call Spain. Iberian Peninsula, southwestern Europe, occupied by Spain and Portugal. Its name derives from its ancient inhabitants. Okay. You can go a bit deeper on that on your own, but Spain, Portugal. So this haplogroup, which has its greatest frequency in Iberia, was by far the most frequent haplogroup observed in our sample, representing 32.5% of the Y chromosomes investigated. Other R1b1a M269 sublineages more prevalent in other parts of Europe were also detected, including all of these. Other typical European haplogroups were also observed, namely all of these. All right. When adjusted to the total number of European lineages, these haplogroup frequencies are in the same range of those usually observed in Iberian populations. So these guys basically brought the whole of Europe down to Brazil. Haplogroup E, P170, can be observed in Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. Inside haplogroup E, some lineages originating in sub-Saharan Africa were detected in Brazil. Let's read that again. Inside haplogroup E, some lineages originating in sub-Saharan Africa were detected in Brazil, namely E1A, E1B1A, M2. So it says these lineages originate in sub-Saharan Africa. That's simply not true, because E1B1A is Hebrew DNA. E1B1A. All right, now you can look that up and confirm that yourself. But E1B1A is known Hebrew DNA. We did not originate in no sub-Saharan Africa. All right, like I keep telling brothers in my studies, we went into sub-Saharan Africa after we left Assyria. All right, there's no origination there. Okay, these brothers went there, settled there, and thought they'd be good, but you shall bear your iniquity. If the Most High says, hey, in the end of days, you guys sinned against me, you broke the covenant, in the end of days, you're going into slavery, It didn't matter where you went, you were going to go into slavery. You understand? You want to go to the end of the world? It's okay. Go. Because from there, the Most High will still send you into slavery, right? Let me show you guys a little something here, right? Right. Let me show you guys a little something here, a little treat, right? What is it? So, um, hmm, mm, mm, let's see here. Okay, verse 6. And I will strengthen the house of Judah, and I will save the house of Joseph, and I will bring them to to place them, for I have mercy upon them, and they shall be as though I had not cast them off. Judah was cast off by the Most High, as was Joseph, the house of Joseph, which is Israel, Northern Kingdom, Ephraim. He said, I'll bring them again and I'll place them. And they will be as though what I had not cast them off, for I am Yahweh their God and will hear them. And they of Ephraim, which is Joseph, shall be like a mighty man, and their heart shall rejoice as to wine. Yea, their children shall see it and be glad, their heart shall rejoice in Yahweh. I will hiss for them and gather them. When the Most High says he'll hiss for them, that means, oh boy, he's going to look upon the world for destruction. You understand? Um, when it's time to save his people, because you guys have no idea that you've been treading on the necks of God's people, and the vengeance is going to be uh mind-boggling. Okay, he tells you in the book of Revelation that the remnant were affrighted, right, and still give glory. So even we, who the Most High is coming to save, are gonna be afraid. So I don't even, man, I don't want to know what's gonna happen to you people. You understand what I'm saying? All of you who hate the so-called Negro, you guys are finished. You understand? When the Most High returns, oh boy, retribution shall be sweet. Revelation 11:13, and the same hour was there a great earthquake. The tenth part of the city fell, and in the earthquake was slain of men 7,000. All right, and as Brother Nakwam says, that's just a number representing a whole portion. All right, everybody. Right now, we know there's gonna be a remnant, but most people, let's say, are gonna die. Right, it says, and the remnant were affrighted and give glory to the Most High, right? Revelation 13. And let's see what's happening here. Revelation 11, sorry. They that dwelt upon the earth shall rejoice over them, over who? The Israelites that were blind, all right, for so long, right? And were dead. Pursuant to Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, when it's talking about the dry bones, we were spiritually dead, then we will raise from the dead. Everyone's going to be afraid as this is going to go into, and then the Most High will begin to judge the world with destruction, and even we going to be afraid. Let me just read it. I have studies on this stuff. I mean, I'll post links so you guys can go through the studies and see that I'm not just talking about a bag of fart out of my head here on the internet. And they that dwelt upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another, because these two prophets tormented them that dwelt on the earth. Which two prophets? The north and south kingdoms of the Most High. Okay, Joseph and Judah. Okay, or Ephraim and Judah, or Israel and Judah. And after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from Yahweh entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. You see that? So the Most High tells you after 3 days and a half, which is 350 years, the spirit of life from the Most High will enter into us. That's the word. the truth. Okay. And they stood up on their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. All right, and that links up with Ezekiel 37 that tells you the dry bones got flesh, and then they got breath in them by being prophesied to. They stood up on their feet, an exceeding great army. So this is who's standing up on the feet right now. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying to them, come up hither, and they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. Okay, and nobody's going up in an actual cloud. Cloud is just code name for aerial vehicle. All right, right. Um, uh, Let me show you guys that real quick, because we're not mad people here. Okay, we're not crazy. Second Ezra 15 and verse 40. The great and mighty clouds shall be puffed up full of wrath, and the star, that they may make all the earth afraid, and them that dwell therein, and they shall pour out all over every high and eminent place a horrible storm, right? Fire, hail, and flying swords, and many waters, that all fields may be full, and all rivers with the abundance of great waters. And they shall break down the cities and walls and mountains and hills. So clouds are going to break down the cities, walls, mountains, hills, the wood, grass of the meadows, and the corn. And they shall go steadfastly unto Babylon to make her afraid. All right, let me go from a little bit from before. Let's see. I want even their own star. I believe it's right here in this. There we go. Behold the clouds from the east, verse 34, and from the north unto the south, and they are very horrible to look upon, full of wrath and storm, right? What's happening here? It's the final days of battle, okay? That the Most High is describing here. He's describing how the world is going to end, all right? If I go from verse 20, it tells you, behold, saith God, I will call together all the kings of the earth to reverence me, which are from the rising of the sun, from the south, from the east, and Libanus, to turn themselves one against another and repay the things that they have done to them. You hear that? God said he's going to call all the kings of the earth together for them to fight against one another, right? And this is happening at the end of the world. Second, the brother Ezra is seeing this vision. You understand? Behold, verse 1, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of what? Prophecy, which means this is happening at the end of the world. And which I will put in thy mouth, saith Yahweh, and cause them to be written where? In paper, for they are faithful and what? True. You understand? So, these are prophecies. So, let me read verse 20 real quick. Behold, saith Yahweh, I will call together all the kings of the earth to reverence me, which are from the rising of the sun, from the south, east, and Libanus, to turn themselves one against another and repay the things that they have done to them. Okay? If I go from 18, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, shall destroy the houses with the sword. That just means the weapon, which is guns in this final day. And spoil their goods. They're going to rob them. Because of what? The lack of bread. Food is going to be so scarce in this place. People going to start killing people for food. All praise to the Most High, right? And this is your repayment for destroying the people of God, right? And his earth, right? And not listening when we were telling you guys what was going on, right? It's not a nice thing to die from starvation, but that's what's going to happen to most of the world. Starvation and war is going to kill most of the people on the planet. All you other nations, right? This is how you're going to die, right? And you Israelites that don't keep the commandments, you're also going to die in this way, right? Okay. Verse 21, like as they do yet this day to my chosen, so I will do also, and recompense in their bosom. Thus saith Yahweh, Alahayim, right? The way you see Lord here should say Yahweh, and God is Alahayim, which is the government, the governor, the ruler, right? Um, my right hand shall not spare the sinners, and my sword shall not cease over them that shed innocent blood upon the earth. Okay, so let's go to 34. Behold, so we know this is a time of war God is talking about. Behold, clouds from the east, from the north unto the south, and they're very horrible to look upon, full of wrath and storm. Okay, so you're thinking, yeah, Nimbus cloud, this is a dark cloud, yes. Watch this. They shall smite one upon another. So the cloud's gonna smite one upon the other, right? They shall smite down a great multitude of stars upon the earth. Wait, hold on. Clouds are gonna drop stars on the earth in a war? Okay. You're saying to yourself, yes, God is supernatural and he can do these things. Yes, he's able to do these things, but God deals with reality. God is not a magician. He does things through knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, not magic. You understand? Let me prove to you that these clouds are not actual clouds. Let's keep reading. They shall smite down a great multitude of stars upon the earth, even their own star. So a star um, uh, uh, made by the clouds is gonna be struck. Is gonna uh, rain down upon the earth. Hmm? It says they're gonna smite down a great multitude of stars. These clouds from the east and the west, right? And blood shall be from the sword unto the belly. Remember, this is a war going on, and God said clouds are coming from everywhere. The scriptures say clouds are coming from everywhere. Remember, this is a vision too. Clouds are coming from everywhere. This is an ancient man trying to describe things. Clouds are coming from everywhere, and the clouds are dropping down stars upon the earth, even their own star. So you know it's not a meteorological star from space. He said the cloud's own star they're dropping. And when they drop it, blood upon the earth, right? If a cloud dropped a meteor from its height, I mean, one or two people may die, you're going to miss a whole bunch of people because it's not that high. It's not going to be coming down that fast, right? It said, let's keep reading, and dung of men unto the camel's hoof, and there shall be great fearfulness and trembling upon the earth, and they shall see the wrath. They that see the wrath shall be afraid, and trembling shall come upon them, and then shall there come great storms from the south, from the north, and from another part of the west. Strong winds shall rise from the east, and shall open it, and the cloud which he raised up in wrath and the star stood to cause fear toward the east and west wind shall be destroyed. So the Most High said there is a star that is stood up to cause fear towards the east and towards the west. Which star do we know about on earth as men and women that causes fear from the east to the west? With actual celestial star? That there's none. Right? I'm gonna keep reading before I tell you what he's talking about if you haven't figured it out yet. Fire. Here's the explanation. Sorry. So he's gonna destroy this star, okay? That is causing fear everywhere. And it says, the great and mighty clouds shall be puffed up and full of wrath, and the star is also gonna be puffed up and full of wrath, that they may make who? All the earth afraid. Remember, this is a time of war. And who? Them that dwell in. So which cloud and which star is going to make the earth afraid and everybody that dwell in the earth? You're going to have to know about it. And you're going to have to know that, hey, this star and this cloud has certain power to do certain things for you to be afraid. It says, and they shall pour out on every high and eminent place. That means important places. What are they going to pour out there? An horrible star. Who's going to, it says, they shall pour out over every high and eminent place. Right? A horrible star. Fire. You hear that? So man is the one that's pouring out over the every high and eminent place a horrible star. Are you starting to see what this star is, brothers and sisters? It's man-made, a man-made star coming from a cloud. It's not an actual cloud. It's a man-made cloud, an aerial vehicle. The star, I'm going to tell you in a second if you haven't figured it out yet. The star causes fire, hail, flying swords, flying weapons, many waters, I mean many people, all fields may be full, and all rivers with the abundance of great waters, meaning dead bodies, okay? Okay? Because waters is people, you know? I forget the precept right now. I mean, brothers can post it in the comments. If you really want to know, ask me, I'll throw it up. Um, yeah. 1 second, you guys. Right? Let's see. And they shall break down the cities and walls. You see, the man-made star is going to break down the cities and walls. What thing that looks like a star when it is coming down from the sky, it can break down cities and walls, right? It's going to break down the mountains and hills, trees of wood, grass in the meadows, and their corn. And they shall go steadfastly unto Babylon to make her afraid. What? The clouds going steadfastly to Babylon. Where's Babylon? America, to make her afraid. And they shall come to her and besiege her. Who's coming? The star. Sorry, and besiege her, right? Who's coming? The other nations, right? It says, the star and all wrath shall depart upon America. Then shall dust and smoke go up unto heaven, and all they that be about her shall bewail her, right? And they that remain under her shall do service unto them that have put her in fear. Who put her in fear? The other nations. They came with stars and clouds, right? Right? Um, Let me see, right? So these stars, if you haven't realized, is missiles, right? Let's go back to 35. They shall smite up one upon another, they shall smite down a great multitude of stars upon the earth, even their own star, and blood shall be from the sword unto the belly. So these are not God's stars, these are man's stars, right? Coming from clouds, which are man-made vehicles, all right? In which are aerial vehicles, sorry. So when it says here we ascended up to heaven, meaning the sky in a cloud, it means in an aerial vehicle, right? A chariot, right? A so-called UFO, right? Now, people may say, oh, he's gone off the rocker now. He's definitely one of them tinfoil hat people. No, that's what the scriptures teach. There's aerial vehicles that the angels have. It's so-called UFOs. These things are real. The government is now admitting that they are real, and we've been known what they are. The book of Ezekiel describes them. You know, it can't be anything else, right? What people call unidentified flying objects before they changed the name today. I don't remember what they're calling it now, but that's what a cloud is. It's an aerial vehicle. Okay, and it says, and the enemies beheld them. And the same hour was there a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell. You see that? And the earthquake And of the earthquake were slain of men 7,000. And what happened? The remnant were affrighted and gave glory unto the God of heaven, right? So even we, who love the Most High, gonna be afraid when we see the destruction that's gonna come upon these people. Anyway, going back to the topic at hand. So it says here, Africa, inside haplogroup E, some lineages originating in sub-Saharan Africa were detected in Brazil. Okay, these are not no sub-Saharan African DNA. Okay, this is Israelite DNA, namely E1A, E1B1A, sublineage E1B1A, E1B1B, accounting for 8.2% of all Y chromosomes. E1B1B can be found at similar frequencies where in Europe and in Africa. Why are there similar frequencies in Europe and in Africa? Because the Israelites were in so-called Europe and Africa. Okay, in Iberia, they shipped us out of there. If you read the Spanish Inquisition, if you read about the Spanish Inquisition, it was all about rounding up us so-called Negroes, us Jews, and selling us into slavery, man. And, that's it, right? Expelling us from Spain and Portugal, sending us to the west coast of Africa, into the Portuguese colonies, sometimes just leaving us on the west coast of Africa naked, taking all our stuff, taking all our land, all our riches, and leaving us to die. That's what the Spanish Inquisition was about, right? Look it up. Okay, hence samples from this haplogroup were not included when estimating ancestry portions. You see that? They didn't even include. That's funny. Because it's telling you the truth. So of course they're not going to include it. E1B1B M81 exhibits a high prevalence in North Africa and Iberia, Spain, Portugal, and what? North Africa, Libya, all these places we went to. The latter being the probable origin of most Y chromosomes. So they're saying that Iberia is the origin of most Y chromosomes in Brazil belonging to this haplogroup. Could be a low frequency of E1B1B was found in our sample, a haplogroup that is spread all over Europe and also frequent in some West Asian countries such as Turkey, Syria, and Lebanon. The haplogroup Q, I have about 3 more minutes, you guys. Then I gotta head out and I'll be back later. Yeah, maybe I'll do a part 2, Lord willing. The haplogroup Q1A, M346, and its sublineages, mainly Q1A and 3, are almost completely restricted to what? Native American populations. These lineages are usually poorly represented in current Brazilian admixture populations. They were detected in only 3.1% of Y chromosomes included in the present study. Only very few and isolated populations in Brazil did not receive European admixture, either through early contact with the Portuguese or through more recent contact with other Europeans or European descendants in Brazil. As expected from historical data and previously published works concerning the paternal ancestry of Brazilian admixture populations, European lineages were the most frequent in the study sample, followed by Hebrew lineages, and Native American lineages were the least represented. Okay? Right? European blue, African, which is Hebrew green, and Native American red. And I think that's a good place to pull up for now. Yeah. I'm gonna post this on Twitter. So you guys follow me on there. And you can get all this information. Okay, groups of Brazil. All right. Thanks for joining me on my little study session. What do you call it? All praise to the Most High. This is off, by the way. Look at this. It's off as hell. Because anyway, this is off. All praise to the Most High, and happy Shabbat. All right, Shalom.